Mass, a game about superheroes. I was playing the theme from the TV show Mass, the classic Saturday morning cartoons. Hello and welcome back to your regularly scheduled reviews. We are once again looking at all the dozens of games, 57 games for $40 for that huge Humble Bumble that I purchased last month. We're about halfway through. We've reached the superhero role-playing games because I was saving the best for last. And then we're going to go through the really weird ones. But first, we got to do the superhero role-playing games. Why is this live? Because apparently live is better for the algorithm. I don't know. I prefer doing recorded because then I can edit it. Not that I really edit, but yeah. So this is Mass. This is a superhero role-playing game made for Powered by the Apocalypse, which got a lot of hype when it first came out. But since then, like most of the things associated with Powered by the Apocalypse, it has faded away, while the things that have spawned out of Powered by the Apocalypse has done better than Powered by the Apocalypse. Now, if you've been a fan of the channel for longer than a bit, you know that I repeatedly said that Powered by the Apocalypse had so much potential to be the next great ceiling breaker, the next great game to come out and really shake up the paradigm. It could have been the next GURPS. It could have been the next Vampire the Masquerade. But it fell short and it got in its own way. And part of it was the way they chose different genres and how they tried to tie in all this emotion and gender identity and sex and just weirdness that made a lot of other people uncomfortable. And we know that those themes have been touched upon in Cyberpunk, in Vampire the Masquerade, in other games better. And the way these guys did it, not so well. But from those heavy birthing pains came some other games that we know of, and much like Mork Borg, have done better than the original game. Like Blades in the Dark came out of Powered by the Apocalypse, and Blades in the Dark is a much better game. Now, this uses the very weird 2D6 emotion, moves, stuff like that. If you're familiar with Powered by the Apocalypse, you're familiar with this game. And again, much like Savage Worlds, on paper, Powered by the Apocalypse doesn't look like it'll work until you play it, and then you realize that within the limitations, it does work. But unfortunately, the system only works for very specific genres. It is not the generic system that it could have been. It took Blades in the Dark to make it the generic system that works a little bit better. It still doesn't work great. And it definitely feels like, and especially with Mass, as opposed to the other superhero role-playing games attached to it, that this was written by people who didn't really get the genre. And you will stumble across this a lot in superhero lit and superhero, especially superhero role-playing games. And I should warn you guys, when it comes to superhero role-playing game, my bar is very high because this is my favorite genre. And I will fight tooth and nail to make sure that if you're doing a superhero role-playing game, you do the genre well. Otherwise, just give me $6 and buy mine because it's better than this. So yeah, this reads like it's a game that was written by somebody who doesn't really understand the genre or was trying to pour the genre of teen superheroes into the very moody, emo world of Powered by the Apocalypse. And if you know teen superheroes, it's all about joy and hope. The Teen Titans is iconic. Kitty Pryde is iconic. Teen superheroes, kids superheroes are iconic of, usually associated with the boundless energy and enthusiasm of youth. Why is Robin, why is Dick Grayson better than Batman? Because Dick stepped out of Batman's shadow and embraced all his emotions. And that makes him a much more fulfilled character, Why is Wally considered the best Flash, even though Barry is the Flash we know the most because of the story that Wally told, right? Why do we love Kitty Pryde? Because of the story Kitty told. And we grew up with Kitty, and most of us got into comic books when we were teenagers. So we recognize these characters while we might not recognize the adult characters. And these characters all did the things and represent all the different aspects that we went through as kids, you know, the enthusiasm, the anger, the wanting to change the paradigm, and the emo doesn't really work. So we're going to just look at some of the example characters. I've already taken some look at this and I've gone, yeah, no, you don't understand the genre, do you? I wonder if I'm going to get dinged for using the Mass theme song. I don't care. I love the song. Probably the same way I got dinged for using the G.I. Joe soundtrack. All right, so this is the first character they give us for the example, and they use all these words like advancement and moment of truth. So we have the Beacon, Robin. And the Beacon, and they have this thing on look, which is totally pointless. Why do you look like whatever you want? You could be an ambiguous Asian or whatever, a comfortable. No, just why include that? That's dumb. All right, so you get to choose 2 abilities if you're the Beacons. Robin, bow and trick arrows, swords, camouflage and stealth, martial arts, Robin, acrobatics, and then for some reason phasing. This is supposed to be the non-powered teen sidekick, of which most teen sidekicks are. Phasing? Phasing? I mean, I guess Kitty Pryde, but no, phasing doesn't really fit. And then you choose your Beacon moves, and you just read these and you go, yeah, you don't understand the genre. You don't understand Robin. And then we have the next one, the Brick, or this one's called the Bull, the really strong character. And it says, choose 2 of these abilities, and then doesn't give you any. But then you go here and you see the ones for them, and there again doesn't really feel like they understood how a brick works. And you know, we have all the emotional things: danger, freak, savior, superior, mundane, afraid. Yeah. Here we have the Delinquent. What? And your abilities are to choose from are teleportation, illusions, gadgetry and hacking, psychic weapons, emotion control, or power negation. Huh? What? I don't. It doesn't really feel like you understand the genre. He's a teenager. He's going through a phase. He died and we brought him back. Then we have the Doomed. So I guess Raven. Then we have the Janus, which is supposed to be, is this supposed to be Green Lantern? Shazam? I don't really care. Why? Oh, 2 faces. So maybe you're one person out of the mask, one person inside the mask, i.e. every superhero ever. Okay. Then we have the Legacy, Superboy. Then we have the Nova, who's got no flame powers. Why is this called the Nova? But you list telekinesis, sorcery, biokinesis, elemental control, or I guess there's your flame powers, gravity manipulation, and cosmic energies. Okay. Then we have the Outsider. So this would be like your space elf or whatever. Then we have the Protege, which could also be Robin. And then we have the Transformed, and he's got like inhuman might, plant affinity, technopathy, transmuting flesh. So this is your werewolf, your guy that was experimented on. And those are your characters. And each one has a plethora of choices they could be, of weird cross-section of stuff, but doesn't really feel like you understood the superhero genre. And if I'm looking at the example characters, I'm just going, yeah? I don't get it? I mean, the system is simple enough. 2d6, 7 or higher is a success. 6 or lower is a failure. Then we have success, with what is it? Hope, success with fear, they call it in Daggerheart, but it's got a different name in Powered by the Apocalypse. But basically, it's a success with complications, success without complications, or failure with complications, failure without complications. So you can succeed, but there's still stuff that goes wrong, or you could just totally succeed. You could fail, but there's still a chance you can pull out of it. Or you just fail totally, fail with hope, fail with fail, success with complications, success with success. 2d6, 7 or higher. 12 is a critical. 2d6, 6 or lower. 2 ones is a fail, ultimate fail. Other than that, there's complications and shenanigans. And this weird system, and it works, but not as superheroes. So that's probably the problem. Now, I don't just say this because I'm looking at this going, it doesn't make sense. I'm saying this because I actually got to play Masks once, and much like Fate and some of the other weird games I've played over the years, it just the one time I got to play it, it didn't feel like they understood the genre. But there are a lot of people out there who swear by this game. So, yeah. I don't think the problem is the game inherently. I think first, doing teen sidekicks is a very hard genre if you don't understand the genre of teen sidekicks. And second, and more importantly, it's Powered by the Apocalypse tends to get in its own way. It had so much potential to be the next GURPS. We needed another good paradigm-shifting generic system to come along and pull us out of the mire of OGL D20. We wanted a superhero, and teen sidekicks. Who doesn't love teen sidekicks? Who doesn't love the Teen Titans? Who doesn't love Danger Club? Who doesn't love the Young Avengers? Who doesn't love the idea? Because we were all teenagers when we started getting into comics, right? Well, most of us were. But then, it just there's a lot of things in it that just don't work, especially when there's better superhero systems like Villains and Vigilantes, like Champions, like Heroes Unlimited, like Mutants and Masterminds, like Vigilantes for Shadowdark, In fact, you should just go buy my game, even though I'm in the process of rewriting it. So really what you should do is go to my Patreon and support it. It's like $9 a month because I can't make it any lower right now, though I think it should only be $5. And you can just check out what I'm working on for the next evolution of Vigilantes for Shadowdark, or Superheroes for Shadowdark. I just finished working on the power section. These first, you have 2 characters who are basically the same thing. You got the Beacon and you got the teen sidekick. You got the scene. Then you got, what my whole thing is, I'm one person in the mask, but I'm a different person when I'm outside the mask. So that's everyone. That's everyone. I'm doomed. Yeah, the hopes, the fears. It has the potential. The building blocks are there, but it gets in its own way. And knowing that there are better superhero systems out there that do this, it's really hard. And like with most of the Power of the Apocalypse games, it's kind of fallen to the wayside, much like Mork Borg. But the things that have come from that are doing much better. Mork Borg is Mork Borg, and you look at Mork Borg and you go, but then you look at the games that have come out of Mork Borg, Pirate Borg, Cyber Borg, Bork Borg, which is, best name for a game right there. And they're so much better than the original parent. Same with Powered by the Apocalypse. The games that have come out of Powered by the Apocalypse, specifically City of Mists and Blades in the Dark, are so much better than it's the parent. And they've showed that the potential was there. It just took the right genre and the right people to understand it. Now, Mass came out early. It was one of the first. It got a lot of good press. People still look at it and go, yeah, it had so much potential. But, you know, we're doing the list of like, top 5 superhero games you have to play if you're doing X. Mass doesn't come up as much as it should. And that's, that's sad. Really, at the end of this, I would say there are better superhero games than this out there that don't have the baggage that Powered by the Apocalypse has. You know, there's choices that Powered by the Apocalypse made in its early days, much like certain other games, where you just look at it and you want to go, ooh, why? Oh, that was just a horrible choice. Why would you do that? Well, I've got to stand up to my... No, you don't. You don't know. You're just sell your product. You don't have to be icky. But it spawned stuff, and Mass is still looked at as being okay and having good ideas. But at the end of the day, there were better ways to present the genre, better ways to present the character, better ways to present the ideas of what Powered by the Apocalypse was trying to do with the moves and the emotions and everything. So, yeah, I would just say buy my game instead. How much trouble am I going to get in for playing this?